Rain pattered against the window pane, a gentle accompaniment to the quiet hum and flicker of the fluorescent lights in the dimly lit room. Across the table, Dr. Elara Simmons, a researcher whose reputation was etched in countless journals and articles, sat methodically aligning a stack of photographs. Her face, shadowed by the overhead light, was an inscrutable mask of professionalism. I shifted in my chair, the leather creaking under the weight of my unease. She had invited me here under the guise of a breakthrough in memory science, a field I had little interest in until my struggles began. But the somber outline of the room, the sterile smell lingering in the air, it all seemed more befitting an interrogation than a friendly meeting. "Let's begin, shall we?" Dr. Simmons finally spoke, her voice devoid of the warmth it carried during our introductory handshake. She placed the first photograph on the table, sliding it across to me with a practiced motion. The image was a blur of vibrant colors at first, but as my eyes adjusted, the scene before me sharpened into a birthday party. A garden festooned with balloons, a table laid with an array of sweets, and a small boy, eyes crinkled in glee, about to blow out the candles on a cake. "Recognize this?" she asked, a hint of expectation in her tone. I studied the photo, searching for any spark of familiarity in the child's jubilant expression, the curve of the smiling faces around him. Nothing. It was like peering through a window into another person's world. "No," I replied, the word heavier than I intended. "I don't recognize this." Dr. Simmons noted something on her pad, her expression unreadable. "It's from your 6th birthday," she said clinically. "Your parents provided it." She moved on to the next photo, a beach scene. Me, apparently building a sandcastle with a teenage diligence. The ocean in the background whispered of summer memories, salty breezes, and laughter. But to me it whispered nothing. The faces, the place, even the young boy in the center of it all, felt like strangers. "This too," I murmured, pushing the photograph back. "It means nothing to me." As Dr. Simmons continued to display images, Christmas mornings, school, graduations, family vacations, each piece seemed to solidify my growing dread. These were milestones of a life lived, each moment captured with the clear intention of preserving joy and love. Yet here I was, staring down at fragments of a life I didn't remember living. "You're saying these are all me?" I finally asked, my voice tinged with a mix of confusion and frustration. "Yes," she confirmed, her tone clinical yet faintly sympathetic. "All these photographs are authenticated with dates, locations, even metadata from the cameras. But tell me, do you feel disconnected just from these visual memories? Or do your personal memories differ?" That question struck a nerve. It wasn't just the photographs, it was deeper. My memories did not align with the life these images portrayed. Where they showed a childhood filled with friends, my own recollections were of solitude. Their records of a happy, bustling family life clashed with my memories of quiet dinners and subdued conversations. It's like I am looking at someone else's life, not mine." I confessed, the words sounding absurd, even to my own ears. Dr. Simmons leaned back, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made me momentarily breathless. "This is why you're here," she said slowly. "What if I told you that we believe your experience might not be a failing of memory, but a symptom of something much more unconventional?" The room seemed to close in as she paused, letting her words hang between us like a specter. "Part of me wanted to dismiss her, to label this a farce and reclaim the solitary, albeit disjointed, life I remembered. But another part was desperate for answers, for a resolution to the dissonance that plagued my existence. "What are you suggesting?" I asked, a knot of apprehension tightening in my gut. "That perhaps what you remember is your life, and these documented moments are both true," she proposed, a notion so radical it bordered on science fiction. "There's a theory still in its nascent stage that memories can be, how do I put it, overlaid, modified, not just forgotten, but replaced." The word echoed ominously in the room. Was I living with someone else's memories? Or worse, was someone else walking around with mine? "We want to explore this further with you," Dr. Simmons continued, her voice softening, "to understand not just the what, but the why. You could help pioneer a deeper understanding of human consciousness, help others who might be going through the same confusion." The offer was laden with potential, a chance to unravel the tapestry of my own mind and perhaps find the threads of truth hidden within. Yet the implications were terrifying. What if I discovered that my life, the one I remembered, was not truly mine at all? What was identity, if not the accumulation of experiences, of memories collected over a lifetime? As the storm outside intensified, raindrops racing each other down the glass, I realized that my decision wouldn't just change how I viewed my past. It would alter my understanding of reality itself. "I'll do it," I whispered, more to myself than to her. "I need to know." Dr. Simmons nodded, a trace of relief, or was it satisfaction, crossing her features. "We'll do this together," she assured, her voice now carrying a new layer of warmth. Perhaps understanding that the photographs lay forgotten on the table, stark reminders of a past that might or might not have been mine. But as I stood to leave, a resolve settled over me like a cloak. Whether my journey led to enlightenment or despair, it was a path I needed to traverse. After all, what was life, if not the pursuit of truth? And in this pursuit, I was not just reclaiming forgotten moments. I was potentially rediscovering myself. The room smelled of old paper and disinfectant, a scent that somehow seemed to aggressively insist that everything within its confines was sterile, untouched by the chaos of the outside world. But the calm was deceptive. As I sat there, a cold metal chair pressing against my spine, I was about to confront a chaos far more disturbing than anything the external world could muster. Dr. Helena Meyer, a prominent neuroscientist known for her groundbreaking work on memory, paced before me, her shadow flickering under the harsh fluorescent lights. "We've prepared a series of images, Mr. Clarkson," Dr. Meyer began, her voice steady yet somehow distant, as if she were speaking from another room. "These photographs have been carefully selected from various stages of your life. Please look at them closely and tell us what you remember." The first photograph was laid out before me. It showed a young boy about 6 years old, standing under a sprawling oak tree, his face lit by the glow of a vibrant summer day. The scene was picturesque, almost idyllic, but to me it was as alien as a snapshot from another planet. The boy had my eyes, that much was unmistakable, yet I felt no connection to him, no surge of nostalgia, no whisper of recognition. "This is you, age 6, at your uncle's farm in Ohio." I stared at the image, willing a spark of memory to ignite. Nothing came. As more photographs were presented, each scene appeared meticulously curated to evoke a sense of personal history. My supposed 10th birthday party, surrounded by smiling, unfamiliar faces, a high school graduation, my name proudly announced in a program held by a stranger with my features. A wedding picture where I stood beside a woman I did not know, our hands intertwined. Each photo seemed to document a detailed personal history, yet to me it was a narrative belonging to someone else. It makes no sense, I muttered, my confusion spiraling into frustration. These aren't my memories. Dr. Meyer noted my reactions meticulously, her pen scratching against her notepad relentlessly. Interesting, she remarked, more to herself than to me. Let's proceed. After the session concluded, the sense of disorientation lingered, haunting me like a ghost that whispered doubts into the corners of my mind. Was it possible for a person's memory to fracture so significantly? Or was there something more sinister at play? The thought led me down a rabbit hole of disturbing possibilities. Identity theft on a psychological level, experimental manipulations, a life hijacked by another's consciousness. The days that followed were filled with a pervasive sense of unreality. As I walked through the streets of my city, familiar yet foreign, each landmark seemed a cruel taunt, a reminder of a life I should have known but didn't. Faces in the crowd glanced my way, some with fleeting recognition, others oblivious, deepening my sense of isolation. My investigation into my own life intensify. I visited the places from the photos, spoke with individuals who claimed to have known me for years. Stories spilled from their lips, anecdotes of shared experiences, of moments we supposedly lived through together, but to me, they were stories about a stranger, driven by a rising tide of desperation. I returned to Dr. Meyer. You have to help me, I pleaded. It's like I'm living someone else's memories, or worse, like mine have been erased. She regarded me with a mixture of concern and clinical fascination. Your case is unprecedented, but might offer unparalleled insight into the human psyche, she said, her tone both encouraging and chilling. I believe you might be at the center of a rare psychological phenomenon. It's possible that your cognitive processes are rejecting your own memories, creating a sort of firewall against your past. But why? The question tore from me, raw and laden with anguish. That, she said, pausing thoughtfully, is what we must find out. The weeks turned into months, each day a step on a winding journey through the depths of my mind and the science of memory. Dr. Meyer and her team conducted countless tests, delving into the neurobiological labyrinth that composed my thoughts, searching for clues in the complex interplay of neurons and synapses. Gradually, a theory began to crystallize, one as unsettling as it was revolutionary. It wasn't merely a case of memory loss, as one might lose keys or misplace a wallet. It was as if my brain had become an unwilling host to a narrative that wasn't mine, refusing to acknowledge the foreignness imposed upon it. As I faced this reality, I found an odd sense of peace. Whether my memories were truly mine or an intricate tapestry woven by circumstances beyond my understanding, the quest for truth had brought me an unexpected clarity. My identity, I realized, wasn't solely defined by the past that flickered across Dr. Meyer's photographs. It was also the resilience and determination with which I faced each confusing, painful step of the journey. In the end, my story whatever its origins, had been crafted by a series of moments, each lived with the full intensity of confusion, fear, and a relentless search for meaning. Perhaps that was the true essence of identity, not a collection of remembered images, but the ongoing narrative we weave through our actions and decisions every day. Dr. Meyer, watching me come to this realization, nodded slowly. Memory, she remarked thoughtfully, is not just about looking back. It's about the foundation we build upon, moment by moment, for our future. As I left her office, stepping back into the world with a mind burdened yet enlightened, I knew that whether or not I would ever reclaim my past, I had found a way to own my present and shape whatever future lay ahead. The day had an unsettling clarity to it, the sun to bright and the air to crisp. As I walked into the research facility, my heartbeat quickened, each thump echoing an undefined anxiety. The bland, sterile hallways leached the colors from my thoughts as I approached the room where I would dive into the depths of my own consciousness, or perhaps into a stranger's masquerading as mine. Seated in a dim, softly humming room, a projector flickered to life. Dr. Amos, who led this study on memory integration, gestured toward the screen with the enthusiasm of a magician revealing his final trick. Ready to explore the chapters of your life? He asked, though his voice failed, the mask of clinical coldness. As the first image illuminated the wall, a supposed scene from my childhood emerged. A birthday party with bright balloons and a cake blazing with candles. An older woman, whose features suggested warmth and affection, leaned over a small boy. There he is, your 5th birthday, Dr. Amos narrated. Yet the room, the people, the child with his fleeting moment of joy, none of it belonged to me. My mind strained to connect any emotional threads to this tableau, but it was barren, foreign. The session unfolded like a bizarre theater play, with each slide another scene from a life that was allegedly mine was projected. Teenage outings, graduation, intimate family gatherings, all documented with meticulous detail, yet completely alien in essence. As hours slipped by, my sense of disorientation grew. The photographs showed me at various stages of life, climbing a mountain, laughing at a cafe, tender moments at a wedding, purportedly mine. My face was there, unmistakably, but the soul behind those eyes was unrecognizable. The disconnection was visceral and terrifying. Had my memory faded, or was I truly looking through the lens of someone else's existence? Dr. Amos noted my growing distress, but mistook it for mere confusion. Sometimes our memories need a little coaxing, he reassured, adjusting his glasses. But what I felt was far beyond the need for coaxing. It was a fundamental rupture in what I believe was my identity. With each photo, my unease burgeoned into a claustrophobic fear. A part of me desperately wanted to flee from the room, from the pictures, from the implications of what this disconnection meant. Yet I remained anchored by a deep inner need for answers. The study checks out, Dr. Amos would repeat, pointing to his charts of data, graphs of neural activity, all clinically confirming the validity of these memories. Your brain shows recognition patterns. Even if consciously you don't feel connected, how could one argue with science, with data, with the cold, hard terminal output of machines that claimed infallibility? If the technology was right, then surely it was I who was wrong. I, who was broken, in a moment of waning resolve, I spoke to Dr. Amos about the surreal nature of my experience. What if these memories aren't mine? I posed the question, hanging between us heavier than the air. What if someone else's life is being stitched into mine? His eyebrows furrowed, not in dismissal, but in consideration of a theory perhaps too bizarre, yet not beyond the realm of possibility in a world that meddled with the human brain as if it were malleable clay. This was meant to be an experiment on memory retention and integration, not creation or substitution. He finally responded, his voice a blend of professional reassurance and cautious intrigue. But let's delve deeper, he suggested, motioning for the session to continue. As the session waned, a final image flickered onto the screen. It showed an older man, sitting alone on a park bench, a serene lake in the background. He gazed out, a palpable sense of reflection in his posture. Dr. Amos paused, observing my reaction closely. Do you recognize this moment? He asked gently. Something stirred within me, an ember of connection, faint yet distinctly different from the hollow encounters before. I didn't remember the moment itself, but I felt the kinship with the emotion etched on the man's face. It was the reflection of solitude, perhaps contemplation, or the quiet surrender to an unshared burden. As I left the research facility, the world seemed to shift subtly under my feet. The questions lingered, breeding more questions. If my life's memories could be so foreign, what did that say about identity? About the soul's connection to the past, the integrity of one's memory, the sacred archive of our personal histories, once thought immutable, now seemed perilously fragile underneath the disconcerting revelations of the day. However, lay a profound realization. Memory does not define us. It is merely a gallery we visit. It informs and colors our existence, but perhaps it is the feelings we carry, the emotional truths we hold, that anchor our sense of self. Walking under the starlit sky that evening, I pondered the existential orchestra that played silently within, each of us carrying symphonies of thoughts and memories, some vivid, others faded, yet all uniquely ours, or so we believe. This journey into the uncharted terrains of my mind was not just about confronting lost or alien memories. It was about embracing the enigma of being, the quiet understanding that we are more, much more than the sum of our remembered pasts. So, as I drifted further from the clinic, a strange comfort settled over my bruised psyche. Like the man in the last photograph, I realized that perhaps what matters isn't the clarity of the view, but the introspection it inspires. The room was sterile, white, and far too bright. It seemed to hum with an eerie resonance, a claustrophobic echo of the fluorescent lights above. I sat on a hard plastic chair, the coolness of the material seeping through my clothing as a man in a lab coat shuffled through a stack of photographs in front of me. His movements were mechanical, indifferent, as if he were sorting through old receipts rather than fragments of a life. These are from your 6th birthday, the man said, sliding a photograph across the table. It showed a child blowing out candles on a cake decorated with superheroes. The room was filled with laughing children, balloons bobbing against a backdrop of streamers. But the child's face, a face I was told was mine, held no thread of familiarity, no echo of emotion that whispered, "This is me." I shook my head slowly, feeling that disconnection gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. I don't remember this, I murmured, the words tasting strange, like speaking underwater. The man annotated something on his clipboard, his expression unreadable. What about this one? He offered another photo. This one of a teenager at a high school prom, arms draped around a beaming girl in a shimmering dress. Again, the setting was right my hometown, my supposed high school, but the memories evoked nothing inside me. It was like watching a movie of someone else's life, feeling the emotional distance of not being the protagonist. This isn't my life, I said, more to myself than to him, a mix of frustration and fear threading through my voice. He just nodded, scribbling more notes. Interesting was all he offered, a word that chilled me more with its clinical detachment. How could I look at these vignettes of life, my supposed life, and feel nothing? Were these really my experiences, my emotions, my connections? Each photo he placed before me seemed to be another piece of evidence in a trial where I was both the defendant and the victim, charged with forgetting or perhaps rewriting my own history. As the session continued, the photographs spanned through various stages of what should have been my life: college graduation, a wedding, holidays, and family gatherings. Faces that should have been as familiar as my own features were strangers to me. A woman who stood beside me in several photos, her smile as bright as the summer sun, was labeled as my wife. My heart should have leapt at her image, should have felt the warmth of years shared and love known. Instead, there was just a void, an absence where connection should have lived. The man in the lab coat, Dr. Ellis, finally set his clipboard down. Do you recognize any of these people, these places, these moments? I met his gaze, the weight of my own confusion and fear pressing down. No, it's like I'm looking at someone else's life through my own eyes. Fascinating, Dr. Ellis mused. His fascination, however, did little to comfort me. It felt as if my very identity was being dissected, questioned, and I was powerless to defend it. Dr. Ellis leaned forward, his voice lowering as if sharing a secret. What if I told you that we believe these memories, these moments might indeed belong to someone else, that perhaps your consciousness is intertwined with another's? The suggestion should have sounded absurd, and yet, in the context of my own inexplicable disconnection, it made a terrifying sense. Had my life been overwritten by another's, or was I living within a patchwork quilt of experiences, none of which were truly my own? We're exploring the idea that memories can be shared, transferred, even under certain circumstances. Dr. Ellis continued. His words spun around me, a tornado of possibilities that threatened to uproot everything I thought I knew about myself. I left the facility with more questions than answers. The photos clung to my thoughts, haunting me not with a sense of nostalgia, but with a deep, unsettling alienation. Who was I if not the sum of these captured moments? What was my life if it possibly contained chapters not written by my own hand? Over the following days, I became obsessed with the photos. I studied each one, desperate to ignite some spark of recognition, to feel something that would anchor me to those frozen instances of joy, sorrow, triumph, or love. But the more I looked, the more estranged I felt. Each smile, each embrace seemed part of a narrative I was no longer sure I had lived. It was during a particularly sleepless night. The photos spread around me like tarot cards divining my fate. that I began to write, not about the memories I didn't have, but about the feelings that swirled through me now, the fear, the uncertainty, the surreal realization that I might be an amalgam of more than one soul's journey through life. This diary became my solace, my way of connecting not with the past I couldn't remember, but with the present moment, raw and real. I wrote about the emptiness, the eerie sense of dislocation, the philosophical terror of not knowing which parts of my life were truly mine. Perhaps I considered as I penned the last words late into the night. This was not just a journey to reclaim forgotten memories, but a quest to understand the essence of self. In the pages of my diary, I confronted the possibility that identity is not solely built from the memories we hold, but also from the ones we seek out, the narratives we choose to believe, and the ones we decide to question. As dawn broke, casting a soft glow that filled the room with diffused light, I realized that whether the memories were mine or someone else's, my reaction to them, the profound quest for truth and understanding, was undeniably real. In this, perhaps, lay the most genuine expression of my identity, not in the past that seemed so foreign, but in the journey toward understanding, toward accepting the fluid mosaic that might compose a human life. And so, fortified by this revelation, I closed my diary. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of peace, a sense that no matter the origin of my memories, the quest for understanding them was a story uniquely mine. It was on a nondescript afternoon when the fabric of my reality began to tear at the seams. The weather was typical for spring, sunny, with a smattering of clouds, but inside the sterile white walls of room 403 at the Cognitive Research Facility, a storm was rattling the windows of my mind. I had volunteered for what was described as a groundbreaking study on long-term memory integration. As the dim overhead lights hummed in the background, the lead researcher, Dr. Eleanor Givens, presented me with an album filled with photographs. She said they were fragments pieced together from my own life. As my fingers brushed against the glossy pages, the cool touch of the paper was the only thing that felt familiar. The first photograph showed a young boy no older than 8, with a mop of curly hair grinning widely in front of a towering sunflower. The picture was reputedly taken in my grandmother's garden, a place I was told I had spent countless summer afternoons. Yet the boy's jaw, so vivid and uncontainable, was alien to me. Dr. Givens watched me intently, her pen poised over her notepad. "Do you recognize this garden?" she asked. My silence filled the room, heavier than the thick medical tomes lining her bookshelf. Page by page, the narrative of my supposed life unfolded: a first bike ride, a high school graduation, a loving embrace with a woman they claimed was my first love. With each photograph, Dr. Givens' eyes searched mine for a sign of recognition, but each was met with the same bewildered shake of my head. Her frustration mirrored my rising panic. How could it be that the intimate, defining moments of my life provoked no more emotion in me than a stock image? As the session drew to a close, Dr. Givens revealed one last photo. It was a recent one. They said in it, I was supposedly celebrating my 30th birthday, surrounded by friends in a dimly lit bar. The man in the center, whom I was to believe was me, wore a bright grin and held a beer aloft as if triumphing over life's trials. Yet, despite the clarity of the image, the scene was as foreign as a distant planet. Stepping out of the facility, the world seemed a caricature of itself. Everything looked normal: the cars, the bustling city folk, the pigeons pecking at crumbs, but inside, a cold void was expanding. Was my memory betraying me, or was it being overwritten? Days turned into weeks of restless introspection. I began poring over old journals, desperately searching for familiar ground. One entry caught my attention. It was undated and written in a frantic scrawl. "They want me to forget, but I won't let them erase me." The words chilled my spine. It was my handwriting, yet the fear laced through it felt foreign. The dread of being unmoored from my own experiences led me to confront Dr. Givens once more. This time her office felt colder, the shadows longer. When I demanded the truth, her response came not with the clinical detachment I had expected, but with a palpable weight of solemnity. "These memories, though catalogued accurately in terms of time and space, may indeed not be yours. We've had cases where subjects experience overwritten memories, where external memories are so forcefully implanted they overshadow the original ones. The possibility that my mind could be an archive for someone else's moments was horrifying. Why, how is this happening?" I asked, grappling with the implications of her words. Dr. Givens sighed. "We're exploring a theory that certain traumatic or emotionally intense events can create a kind of memory imprint capable of transferring between individuals under specific conditions. The theory explained little but suggested much. In the following days, my dreams became a twisted theater where unknown faces and voices pleaded for recognition. I started seeing a therapist who suggested the study might have triggered a latent dissociative identity disorder, yet that label didn't fit the narrative that was unfolding. I wasn't losing time or waking up in strange places, but I was haunted by the visceral feeling of being an imposter in my own life. As the months passed, I embarked on a journey not just of healing, but of unraveling the enigma, my consciousness. I delved into studies of memory, identity, and the human psyche. I met others who felt their memories didn't belong to them, forming a tapestry of individuals caught between realities. Finally, I returned to room 403, not as a subject, but as a bearer of questions that reach beyond the clinical confines. Dr. Givens admitted that the boundaries of memory and identity were far more malleable than the scientific community wished to acknowledge. Together, we speculated that perhaps memory, like history, isn't just what happened to us, but a story told and retold, edited and inherited through the generations. That afternoon, amid discussions of memory's fluidity, I realized something profound. The essence of who we are isn't solely archived in the photographs or even in the memories we claim as our own. It is a living, breathing presence that resides in every moment we are truly present. Leaving behind the need to anchor my identity, a past validated by photographs, I found freedom. The paradox of memory, that it is both fundamentally ours and shared, personal yet universal, became a source of strength. In embracing the unknown chapters of my life, I embraced the mystery and richness of human existence. Perhaps, in the end, we are all living a life interspersed with forgotten memories and memories yet to be made. And in that realization, there was an unexpected peace, the kind that comes not from knowing everything, but from understanding that some things once lost paved the way for new beginnings. As the dim light of the laboratory grew colder, casting long shadows, across the table cluttered with the remnants of my supposed memories. A deeper chill settled into my bones. Each photograph was a window into a life that was supposedly mine, yet it stood foreign, disconnected, a narrative authored by an imaginative stranger. The researchers eyed me with a mixture of pity and perplexity, scribbling notes that seemed to echo the confusion whirling within me. I had hoped, deep in the recesses of my heart, for some spark of recognition, a flicker of déjà vu that would anchor me to these captured moments. But as I flipped through another album, the faces and landscapes it housed might as well have belonged to a novel I had never read. A young boy blowing out birthday candles surrounded by jovial faces, a teenage girl at a sun-drenched beach laughing freely. Were these truly chapters of my life? Why, then, did they feel like pages torn from someone else's book? The existential dread that had been a mere whisper at the back of my mind grew into a cacophony. If these were my memories, why did they reject every attempt of my consciousness to claim them? The possibility emerged, insidious and terrifying, that my existence was not wholly my own, that perhaps, in some cruel twist of fate or a bizarre experiment gone awry, the essence of another soul had been interwoven with mine, sitting there, amidst the sterile white of the lab, surrounded by the ghosts of a life I couldn't connect with. The ground beneath me seemed to shift. Reality, once solid and dependable, now felt as malleable as the changing shapes of clouds in a stormy sky. Who was I, if not the sum of my remembered experiences? And without them, what tethered me to the essence of my own identity? The researchers offered theories: amnesia, perhaps a rare dissociative disorder, but none fit the gaping hole inside me. Their solutions lay in the realm of science, within the pages of textbooks and beneath the lenses of microscopes. But this was a chasm that science seemed ill-equipped to bridge. It was a profoundly personal pilgrimage I had to undertake, one where the maps were as inscrutable as the terrain was unknown. As the sessions wore on, the essence of my search shifted. It was no longer about reclaiming those exact memories. How could it be, when they elicited no echo in my heart? Instead, it became about understanding the narrative that was being told through these images. What if, instead of recovering what was lost, I could construct something new, a new understanding of identity, not as a static entity, but as a fluid, evolving narrative? The thought was both liberating and daunting. To embrace a version of myself that was continually in flux, untethered from the anchors of past memories, required a kind of existential bravery I wasn't sure I possessed. Yet there was an undeniable thrill to the prospect, a sense of freedom in the possibility of redefining myself. If I was not the boy in the photographs, nor the teenager, nor even the adult depicted alongside friends I did not recognize then, perhaps I could be anyone. Perhaps I could mold my identity with the clay of my present experiences and my future aspirations. In the solitude of the following nights, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the contours of a plan began to take shape. I would start by seeking out new experiences. Deliberately and consciously, I would travel to places I had never been, learn skills that intrigued me, meet people who could teach me about the world and about myself. Each new memory would be a stone laid on the foundation of who I was becoming, each experience a brushstroke in the portrait of the new self I was painting. This journey would not be without its shadows. There would be moments of doubt, of existential fear, as there are in any true adventure. But in those moments, I would remind myself of the unique freedom I had been granted, the freedom to break away from a past that did not feel like mine, and to forge a future that was truly my own. As the months passed, and the stack of unfamiliar photographs grew dusty in a corner of my room, a different kind of memory album began to take shape. This one was filled with images of places I had seen with my own eyes, laughter I had shared with friends I had made along the way, challenges I had met and overcome. Each photograph was a testament not to the person I was supposed to be, but to the person I was choosing to become. Sitting now under the vast expanse of a starlit sky, a photograph in my hand no longer evokes a sense of alienation. Instead, it brings a smile, a flood of warmth from the memories it represents, each one authentically mine. The journey isn't over, perhaps it never will be, but the path is mine, a shape, each step a narrative of choice, each choice a declaration of my existence. In this newfound narrative, I am both the author and the protagonist. The fear of the unknown, while not eradicated, has been transformed into a companion on this journey of continual becoming. In the embrace of a life self-authored, there is a profound peace and a recognition that the true essence of identity lies not in the memories we've been given, but in the memories we choose to create. Thus, the question of who I am remains open, beautifully so, as an invitation to explore, to embrace, and to evolve. It is an ongoing story, one where each chapter is written with the ink of present experience and the vision of future possibilities. And in this story, the only certainty is the freedom to redefine, to reimagine, and to rediscover the depths of what it means to truly live.